Okay, we're back. We were just discussing how in Wikipedia they have information pertaining to the constitution of our organization because it is public knowledge. It's information that we shouldn't have a problem with anybody knowing. It's like an employee handbook. When you get a job and you start on that job, most jobs have handbooks that they give to you and let you know what you can do, what you can't do, what we expect of you, what we don't expect of you. Even children who get work permits in high school and go to jobs, they get a handbook. Fast food restaurant, it doesn't matter what you are, where you work. Constitution is pretty much like that. It's telling you the laws that you must live by, and every one of you. That said, Wikipedia has, and this video is intended for educational purposes, and the information therein is for any interested person that finds interest in this information. But the organization, if you look under the Wikipedia site, I think it's highlighted under 12. Yes. The organization also has what they call the General Assembly, which consists of the bishop, ministers, elders, and 2 elected representatives from each congregation. What I was saying is that they say that we're supposed to have elders in the General Assembly. What they do not say is those elders must have a credential. That's what the so-called new Constitution says. But the old Constitution, it didn't have that in there. And we have a problem because, once again, we've already established that the Constitution has been illegally changed. That said, let's go back to what Wikipedia says. The General Assembly is the vehicle used to make amendments to the Constitution and bylaws. That's all. The only vehicle used to amend the Constitution and bylaws is the General Assembly. Not the bishop's office, not the general council, but the General Assembly. And I'm doing this to show you what the world sees outside the organization, because they're not going to hear us say what Addie said. No, they're going to look at what you have in black and white, and that is what they will enforce. So the General Assembly is the vehicle used to make amendments to the Constitution and bylaws, to fill vacancies in the office of bishop. Oh, what do we have here? Oh, wow. And to remove the bishop for a cause. Wikipedia said that the General Assembly has the power and the authority to remove a bishop for cause. What Wikipedia does not say is that the bishop is in the seat for the period of his natural life. Why? Because it is a contradiction. How can you have in your Constitution that a bishop is going to be bishop for the period of his natural life, and have in the same Constitution that the General Assembly has the power to try and remove a bishop for cause? It doesn't make sense. But we have individuals doing things like that, which is pretty shady, in my opinion, because they're attempting to utilize people's ignorance against them while they strip more power from them and take it and give it to themselves or other individuals amongst them, aka the General Council. That said, they are supposed to abide by the same law we are. And they know that the people have more power than they have. So the General Assembly does have the power and the authority, as we've been saying, to try and remove bishops for cause. Now, Wikipedia only says to remove the bishop. But before you remove them, according to the Constitution, they must get a fair trial. Now, besides the bishop, the General Assembly, ministers and members there, exists an ecclesiastical court called the General Council. The General Council consists of the bishop, state chairman, and others who are appointed by the bishop, and their primary responsibility is to protect the work of the organization and the bishop, and to ensure that all houses and members are compliant with laws outlined in the supreme laws for the government of the United House of Prayer. Their job is to make sure that we are all compliant, which means they're also supposed to make sure each other is compliant. And they're also supposed to make sure that the senior minister is compliant. They're also supposed to make sure that the General Assembly secretary is compliant. And they're also supposed to make sure that the bishop is compliant. Let me look. This is how this works. You heard ecclesiastical court. That is the third branch of government. You have executive powers, the president's office. You have legislative powers, Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. And you have judicial powers, which is the Supreme Court. And you have a checks and balance system. The executive powers of the White House keeps an eye and check on the legislative powers in Congress. The Congress keeps an eye on, check on the White House. And whenever we have a disagreement, the Supreme Court rises up to judge between the two to determine, according to the law, which one is right, or whether either of them is right at all. So what that means is, here in our organization, the president would be the bishop. The vice president, the person who becomes the person in charge in the event that something happens to the president, that's your senior minister. Okay? Neither one of them are supposed to be involved with the council. We have all kinds of problems because in this organization, it's your first time hearing me say this, the bishop, when he's in the general council, he becomes the head judge. It becomes Supreme Court. And whose decision is final in the Supreme Court? Oh, wait a minute. The bishop. So how's the bishop going to be the executive officer sitting in the White House, and yet he sits over the court, Supreme Court, when he goes to General Counsel, and he also presides over Congress whenever he attends the General Assembly? How did we get here to where he has complete autonomy, where he's over everything, and no matter what he says or does, nobody can question him? Do y'all see the con? Are you understanding? We have been greatly deceived because nobody is reading. So when Wikipedia is telling us about our own laws, to which our members themselves don't understand, then we have a very, very serious problem. And we're in this problem because I said before, I'll say it again, the leadership, including Lady D, knows that the members of the House of Prayer don't read. They know that the House of Prayer members hate reading, which is how they get away with so much nonsense. Because if you are not paying attention to what's in black and white, I said it before in another video, the pen is mightier than the sword. I can take everything I want away from you with an ink pen. Some people stick people up, hold stuff to their head or to their neck. Give me all you got. Give me all you got. You can do that with an ink pen and yet be 1,000 miles away from that person who you want to take everything away from. And guess what? This is what the leaders of the House of Prayer has been doing for decades, using a pen to take every single thing away from all the members of the organization, little by little by little, slowly, slowly, slowly over the years. And under the last bishop, we have a constitution where we can prove easily that the constitution was changed by the bishop and company, of which one of the individuals that participated is now the current bishop. And he's preparing to do the exact same thing. In fact, he already has. He already has. The last General Assembly was also hijacked by the current bishop, A.D. Cham. Here's the thing. I can't continue to care about how our members feel or respond to the information that I'm giving you, because it is the truth. I know you don't like it. I know it hurts. I know you're angry. I know you're mad. I know you don't want to believe it. But not wanting to believe it, not wanting to hear it, not wanting to watch these videos, not wanting nobody to alert you to the fact that your leader is lying to you, those things are not going to change the truth. The fact of the matter is, he's lying. And the Lord knows he's a liar. He knows he's a liar. The general counsel knows he's a liar. Lady D knows he's a liar, because all of them, look, it takes a liar to know a liar. Most of the time, they're all lying together, which is why they scratch each other's backs and they cover for one another. You all know that there's a whole lot of problems amongst the men at the front, all the way at the top, in leadership roles over the organization. Now, look at what Wiki says. Look at what Wiki says. We're going to go a little further. The Constitution and bylaws of the organization stipulate that the bishop must be in full knowledge of the doctrine of the United House of Prayer, ready to give answers in good faith, able to judge the various members among the church and congregations, and must be continuously working for the good of the organization in accordance with the rules of the New Testament. Y'all know good and well our leaders are not abiding by the rules of the New Testament. If we just look at that one part, you got so many problems coming out of the rules of the New Testament. Jesus had said, we read Matthew 23rd chapter, where he goes down from the first to the second and third verses, telling the people not to be like them. Don't be like them, because he said they're hypocrites. You, for the most part, have leaders sitting in leadership roles, and they are doing everything they can to tell you one thing while they do something else. That is the very definition of a hypocrite. When you have a bishop telling you to stop fornicating and not to be committing adultery and not to be lying on one another and mistreating one another, but they know that everybody around them almost is doing the same thing and all these things, but they cover it up and they keep them in these positions around them, or even put them in positions around them, then you are guilty of breaking the laws of the New Testament. I don't even have to go there. But the problem is this. We have been taught that the bishop is untouchable. And the reason why we've been taught that is because they've been able to take the powers from the members of the organization by making the president the head of the Supreme Court, and making the head of the Supreme Court, who happens to be the president, also the the head of the Congress. How can one man be over all three bodies of government? All three, you have all three branches of government. It is a contradiction. So when we see that the names on paper in the house of prayer, when it comes to filling certain positions, the same name is in all these seats, like Bishop Cham's name was. You were the senior minister, General Assembly secretary, and the head judge. While also, according to the House of Prayer website, where the newly established, anointed, appointed Apostle Murray wrote this beautiful history to let the world know your accomplishments and your achievements and how you have illustriously gained the Lord's favor in putting you in the position over all the people over the Lord's kingdom. It is all a sham. It is all a lie. As the Lord is my witness, it is all a lie. Lady D was a part of it. The general counsel was a part of it. The proposal committee is a part of it. Apostle Murray is a part of it. And all these individuals that's getting their back scratched and getting awarded with positions of power and titles and all this stuff throughout this organization, just because y'all helping the ones at the top, covering up stuff, keeping all these secrets. No, no, no. What's done in the dark will come out into the light. And guess what? You have people now walking around the organization with a pocket full of batteries and great big old flashlights to expose what it is that you all have been doing for the longest time. And now it's time for the members to wake up and take this power back from these liars in this corrupt organization. We have Wikipedia saying that the bishop's job is to do things that you are not capable of doing, Mr. Cunningham. It continues and says the bishop's role includes the power to select, ordain, and supervise ministers. You cannot supervise a minister if you're not qualified to supervise a minister. You have not been qualified to supervise a minister since the first day you accepted the opportunity to begin to lie, to deceive, and to manipulate the members of the organization of which you are supposed to serve. He is also designated on behalf of the members as trustee of all church property. Now, the problem with this, when we talk about the church property, also designated on behalf of the members as trustee. Trustee. Trustee is a legal term. It is a term that places somebody in a position of trust. In order to get away with and pull off the manipulative deeds and actions that you have pulled off, you, as well as the men on the general council, are the least qualified members of this entire organization that should be entrusted with anything. And now your name has been plastered all over the property of this organization. With that said, it's time, members, to wake up. Let me go to the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy, look at the 17th chapter again. In the 14th verse, when thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shalt possess it, and shalt dwell therein, and shalt say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. Pay close attention. But he shall not multiply horses to himself. A horse back then was the equivalent of, I don't know, maybe a car in our day. But he shall not multiply horses / cars, expensive cars, customized cars, beautiful luxury cars to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much, I'm not going to get into that. They went into Egypt because they wanted to bring some of the horses of Egypt. They had different types of horses. The horses of Egypt were known to be some of the strongest, some of the best horses. You see Solomon going to Egypt to get horses from Egypt. Anyway, they should not multiply horses. For as much as the Lord hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he now that's what happened to Solomon. Solomon multiplied wives. And see, Solomon's mistake, even as wise as he was, he broke God's commandment. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. His heart was turned away from God by his wives. We can go into so much there. For sake of time, let's continue. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. You've been multiplying a lot of silver and gold. A lot of silver and gold. Now, there's a problem with this. Because God said the king is not supposed to multiply silver and gold to himself. In fact, you have even said you are a king. We have the recordings. Anybody that wants that recording played, put it in the comments if you don't believe that he said this. If you forgot that you said this, then say it in the mic and I'll play it for you. I never said such a thing. Never said such a thing. We will play that. If you say you never said such a thing. Neither shall he multiply himself to himself silver and gold. And it shall be when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levite. God said, if you get a king, when you get over there to that promised land, that king, not only is he not supposed to do these things, okay, don't be buying a whole bunch of cars, don't be stacking up a whole bunch of dollars. He said, but they are to get a copy of this book, the commandments of God, the law, as given to the Lord, or given to Moses by the Lord to give to the people of Israel. The problem is God knew that kings would feel like eventually that they're bigger than everybody else. They don't have to listen to anyone, but they would expect everybody else to listen to them. No, no, no. You're going to be a king. You're going to be an example. That's what the problem was with Saul, who God took his spirit back away from. Now we know that the word, if you look at the first book of Samuel, the 8th chapter, the people came to Samuel, the Lord's servant, and told him that his sons are not doing what the Lord say. Give us a king. Samuel got upset, went back to the Lord, told the Lord what the people said. The Lord said, you know what, Samuel, listen to them. Go ahead and give them what it is that they want. He said, it's not you they're rejecting. He said, they're rejecting me, that I shall not rule over them. If God didn't give us no king, God didn't want us to have no king. But God said, give them what they want. However, he says here in the book of Deuteronomy, if y'all want a king, I'm going to choose him. So in the 9th chapter of the first book of Samuel, we see the Lord showing his servant Samuel, the man that he has picked for Samuel to anoint as king. Now here you have an issue, because Samuel was the Lord's servant. Saul was not. Saul was getting ready to become the king of Israel. So in a sense, he's about to enter into a role that is supposed to be of service to the Lord. But Saul refrained or began to no longer serve the Lord. So the Lord took his spirit away from Saul and had Samuel go and find him a replacement. Now, Samuel did not buy a bunch of cars. The Lord's servant did not stock up a whole bunch of silver and gold. Okay? Pay attention. It shall be, 18th verse, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him. The king's supposed to keep a copy of the law with him, no matter where he goes, everywhere he goes. It shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life. He's supposed to be reading the law every day, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, to do them. Why? That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. You're supposed to have a copy of your own law. Everybody else is supposed to follow the law, but you're supposed to have your own personal copy. You're supposed to be reading it every day to make sure that you stay within the confinements of the law. You had one job in the General Assembly, and that job was to make sure that the bishop himself, the general counsel, and everybody else abides in that meeting by the letter of the law as written in the Constitution. You not only went behind the people's backs, consorting with others, sneaking and creeping behind people's backs, of which one of them being a lawyer and a judge. No, you know better to work against a constitution to assist the leader of the organization to do something that the Constitution expressly says in writing that they are not authorized to do. They don't have the authority to do that. Now, had you stopped at just suggesting certain things for a revision, okay, and then assisted the bishop in writing his own proposal so that it can go through the proposal process, then that would have been legal. That would have been legitimate. we wouldn't be sitting here right now. But you didn't do that. You thought you were slick and sneaky and tiptoeing around the backs of the organization. Why? Because it has happened so many times before, and you thought that the people would not read. That comes from this term, tip of my tongue. Tip of my tongue. When you look at the precedence of something that's going on, something that's happened, and it is allowed to happen again and again and again, when people, one second. Okay. When people look at extrapolate. Extrapolate. Yes. Let me pull that up. Extrapolate. Extrapolate. Okay, pay attention. Right here. Okay? Now, extrapolate. It's a verb. The Lord blessed me with a little birdie, put something in my ear this morning. And they touched on this term. But listen to the definition. To predict by projecting past experience or known data. Extrapolate. To project, B, extend or expand known data or experience into an area not known or experienced so as to arrive at a usually conjectural knowledge of the unknown area. Now, when you have people looking at the past behaviors and actions and results of the members of the house of prayer, and they see that, oh, snap, we got away with it. Nobody said a thing. Nobody said a word. Nothing happened. We can do that again. And again. And again. It's almost like saying, you know what? We're not calling the people stupid. We are, but we ain't. We ain't, but we are. We are, but we ain't. You're doing stuff in front of people and you know that they're not catching on because you're intentionally keeping the people ignorant. How did that happen? How does it work? Because the people are being brought forward to act in a meeting that they may not have knowledge about. Your job is to orient them when they get there and allow them to understand as well as ask questions pertaining to this meeting that they are about to engage in. So there's this thing in the General Assembly known as the orientation. You are to arrive early so that you can take part in orientation. During orientation, that's where the General Assembly Secretary, as well as the staff, Assistant General Assembly Secretary, they come forward to ask if anyone has any questions, or they give instructions first and then allow the members to ask questions about the instructions that they just gave. Case in point. We know that there's many of you that may not have ever attended a General Assembly. First of all, welcome to each and every one of you. Clap your hands for yourselves. The congregations around the organization has entrusted you with the opportunity to come here and represent them. Job well done. You are considered faithful members of the organization, and they have trusted that you will come here to represent them in the spirit of honesty. That's important because you're not there to represent yourselves. You're there to represent the congregations who sent you. Now, when it comes to proposals for a general assembly, the congregations are already supposed to be made aware of those proposals. Now, since you may be attending a general assembly where proposals are going to be held there for you to vote on, it is imperative, it is essential that you are orientated to your role and your responsibilities in that meeting. The secretary is supposed to allow you to understand what the meeting is, what the purpose of the meeting is for, what you're going to be taking care of on that day. The list of proposals has been afforded to the congregations. If you do not have that list, they're supposed to go over it again. With that in mind, to allow you to understand the process and the procedure. Never ever in the General Assembly should you hear the words General Counsel only. The General Counsel and the bishop should be sitting there with their mouths shut and not saying a word. You know why? Because they do not represent the organization. Those men are sitting on other seats that also are a part of regulating and governing the organization. They're not supposed to be there to lead the members to anything. That's why, again, the White House staff is not in Congress and the Supreme Court staff is not in Congress. If they happen to be there in the building, you won't hear anything from them because they don't have the authority to say a word. Nada, zilch, nothing. So when we see the bishop, in fact, holding the people up, the meeting can't even start until he arrives. They've hijacked the General Assembly so, the General Counsel sitting here, just walking around the front, doing whatever, taking complete control, giving the members the idea that y'all are here to follow us, whatever it is that we do. When you see them stop a meeting in order to get together, all this nonsense, singing songs to the bishop, or you may never know. In the General Assembly, it is a meeting. You don't see President Biden going up there to the Senate or Congress or President Trump while they sing him happy birthday or happy anniversary. Congress ain't getting together to sing no song to no president. It's a meeting. This is official business. And they made it into a circus while they go behind closed doors and laugh at every single one of you because they made you look like complete fools. Even me, all these years, while we did not know what was going on behind closed doors because it's planned, it's plotted. So now, here we are. But the king is supposed to make these laws, and he's supposed to read them every day. You know why? Because that's how important it is to God that the king walks that tightrope. You sitting up in the high seats now, you in the rafters. You got the club box with the glass. Everybody get to see you. You don't have to worry about being down on the floor. You up here got all kinds of food, great big old screen, TVs, people entertaining you or whatever. Sit. The Lord is angry because of all of the deception and the lies and the corruption in this organization, and people scratching each other's backs because y'all got these people out here that you're intentionally and willfully keeping ignorant to the procedures of the House of Prayer organization when it comes to the rules and the bylaws, so that you can take advantage of them by getting their hands on the money. Reckoning day is here. And it's time to face the music. We're going to come right back. I'm going to wind this video up. A few more moments, though. I'm trying to contain my composure because it's so upsetting. It's so very upsetting. Every single year, the bishops have violated the Constitution. Every single year, the General Assembly has violated the Constitution. Even without proposals, they've violated the Constitution. Every single year, the General Assembly Secretary has several violations of the Constitution during the General Assembly. When the General Assembly Secretary sees anything take place that's not supposed to take place in there, and he does not correct it, does not call it out, does not fix it, that's a violation. He's neglected to do his job. Anytime the general counsel is sitting there who knows this law, they're supposed to know the law, you all serve in the court. You're officers of the court, at least in this organization. How can you be an officer of the court and not know the law? That's like Sister Mickey Bailey being an officer of the court and not knowing nothing about the law. How can you do things that go against the law when you have studied the law and you now have a license to practice the law? You're supposed to know better than anybody else because you are a practitioner of law. Therefore, individuals pay you to advise them of what to do and what not to do. You're supposed to catch them and say, no, you can't do that. The law says you can't do that. Instead, what you're saying, well, the law says it, yeah, but we can get away with it because people don't read. They're not going to read it. They're not going to read it. You've gotten away with it all this time. You know what? Guess what? And you got a judge in the same room with you. Yeah, they haven't read anything over the last whatever years, so it looks like they're not going to read it this time. You got my seal of approval. A judge and a lawyer, officers of the court of the land, authorizing the green light to go ahead and commit all these violations of fraud for this organization. Members, it's time to wake up. Here's one more piece of information for you. Let's turn to article now. Let me just read these things and I'm going to read the scripture. Article 2 of the Supreme Laws for the Government of the United House of Prayer. The General Counsel must be of such character that Article 8 in the Constitution and bylaws of this organization points to. In Section A, it says, second half, paragraph, ministers and elders shall be of moral conduct, always in good standing with the church, and respectability according to the doctrines of Jesus Christ, and not of filthy lucre, or of selfish intentions, and shall preside for the benefit of the organization. Every single one of those, the entire General Counsel, just about, there's only a handful of men I don't know anything about. You others might, but I don't. There is an individual that I am in touch with, that I have been in touch with for years now, who has made a claim against every single member on that general council. There's an individual that I've been in touch with for years that has made a claim against every single one of you. Every one of you. And the bishop just came from the general council. Members, it's time to wake up. I'm going to be putting stuff out through these videos. Y'all better wake these people up, shake them, get them to watch. Here's the thing. It's better to watch now so that you can start getting used to the idea of what's coming. Because the Lord is going to bring all this stuff to a stop. He's going to bring it all to a stop. It's just a little bit of time left. That subscription, Publishers Clearinghouse, ain't seen nothing like the house that the Lord is getting ready to clear. And he's getting ready to clear a house. Here's the thing. It says even further. Let me go to this next part. Article 6, Bishop of the Constitution. Bishop. Constitution. Section 1, the chief executive officer and spiritual advisor of this organization shall be designated as bishop. And the present bishop, fill in the blank, being the present bishop, shall hold the office for the period of his natural life. The General Assembly and the congregations of this organization shall have no power whatsoever to interfere with its visions, rights, or powers in building and making growth in the said organization. I'm going to pause here for one moment. Do you understand that this was slick? The idea is that the General Assembly, who makes bishops, the General Assembly, and the congregations, not the General Council, has nothing to do with the General Council, but the General Assembly and the congregations. Why is the General Council exempt from this clause? Because they're in on it. The General Council is being used to protect the bishop, and that too is written in this Constitution. Let's continue. The General Assembly and the congregations of this organization shall have no power whatsoever to interfere with his visions, rights, or powers in building and making growth in this said organization. Neither shall they have power to judge or condemn him, as he is our high power and our general head on earth, and we shall have no power to judge him. Now, that's put there, but it's trying to hide the bishop behind us. I talked about this in the kill testimonies, but we did not share what we're about to share now. The book of Acts. Let me read this last sentence. The book of Acts. I want to make sure I hit all of these points. The last sentence is, according to the words of the Apostle Paul, he is only to be judged by the Almighty God. Again, I'm trying to contain my composure. The book of Acts. Look at the 24th chapter of Acts. 24th chapter of Acts. Now, I'm not going to go over all these verses because all we need is one. That's all we need is one. But I'm going to show you several. I can show you several, but I'm going to just show you one about Paul. In the 24th chapter of Acts, look at the first verse. Acts 24. And after 5 days, Ananias, the high priest, descended with the elders, and with a certain orator named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Paul. And when he was called forth, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, seeing that by thee we enjoy great quietness, and that very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by thy providence. Now watch carefully. Listen to this very, very carefully. I'm going to jump down to the 5th verse. For we have found this man, Paul, we have found this man a pestilent fellow and a mover of sedition among all the Jews throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes, who also hath gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged according to our law. Now, what did we just hear? What did we just hear? Paul was in a position to be judged. Paul never said nobody can judge him but God. Not in the sense that they're trying to make the people of the house of prayer believe. Look at the 26th chapter. 26th chapter of Acts. First verse. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, thou art permitted to speak for thyself. Then Paul stretched forth the hand and answered for himself. I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because I shall answer for myself this day before thee, touching all the things whereof I am accused of the Jews. Wait. Paul was accused. If Paul is being accused, then Paul has to be judged. Let's go on. Look at the 6th verse. And now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made of God unto our fathers. Listen, the scripture tells us clearly that Paul could be judged by men. It doesn't even tell us he could be. He was judged by men. Paul was brought before several men to be judged. He was judged. The laws that we have in the Constitution says that the bishop, according to the law, can't be judged. The General Assembly and the congregations shall not have any power to judge or condemn him, as he is our high power and our general head on earth, and we shall have no power to judge him. Now, Paul was not even the high power and general head on earth. Peter was not the high power and general head on earth. And both of them did not excuse judgment for themselves. According to the words of the Apostle Paul, he is only to be judged by the Almighty God. Where can anybody find for me that Paul could not be judged by anyone when the scripture clearly shows us that Paul was very well indeed judged by people? We see it right here, and we talk about this. Matter of fact, we're going to close out. 18th chapter of John, and then we're going to close out. 18th chapter of John. 18th chapter of John. Here we go. The bishops in the law says they can't be judged. The problem is the law says they can. The General Assembly has the right to try and remove them for a cause. Remember that. Keep that in mind. Here's the last thing I want you to remember. John 18th chapter, 28th verse. Then led they Jesus. They led Jesus from Caiaphas unto the hall of judgment. And it was early, and they themselves went not unto the judgment hall, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. Pilate then went out unto them and said, What accusation bring ye against this man? They answered and said unto him, If he were not a malefactor, we would not have delivered him up unto thee. What did they bring him there for? Look at the next verse. Then said Pilate unto them, Take ye him and judge him according to your law. The Jews therefore said unto him, It is not lawful for us to put any man to death, that the saying of Jesus might be fulfilled, which he spake, signifying what death he should die. Then Pilate entered into the judgment hall again, and called Jesus, and said unto him, Art thou the King of the Jews? Beginning the trial that would lead to Jesus himself being judged by men. Who in the world is a bishop of the house of prayer to not be able to be judged by a man when Jesus himself was judged by man? Members, start reading your law. All of this stuff is about to be wrapped up. Thank you for your attention and time. We'll see you in the next video.